everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of Safety Snacks, a series of bite sized videos and interactive workshops that will help you protect yourself from doxing, hacking, and other kinds of online abuse. I'm Victoria Vilk, and I run PEN America's Online Abuse Defense Program.
And I'm Harlow Holmes, Director of Digital Security at Freedom of the Press Foundation.
And this is our last episode of Safety Snacks. I cannot believe it. We have made it. And today we are going to focus on the device that's actually basically become an extension of our bodies, our phone. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to make your phone safer and more secure. I know that in pretty much every episode in this series, we've said that it's really important to separate the private from the professional online. But exactly how are we supposed to do that, Harlow, with our phones?
Well, I'm going to tell you something that you may not want to hear. You should have two phone numbers. Not necessarily two phones, but that could be ideal. But at least two distinct phone numbers.
That sounds like a lot of work, Harlow.
But it's super important. Think about it this way. It used to be normal to have a private phone number and a public office phone number. But when the pandemic pushed many of us into remote work, suddenly absolutely everything had to happen from our cell phones. And so chances are you use your phone to do things like calling your mom, doing online banking, taking photos of your dog. And this is the same device that you, as a journalist, give out to a lot of people, your sources, your leads, your subjects. So the problem is that some of these people might want to retaliate against you for reporting on or instigating others to do so, right? And the more sensitive the topics you cover, say white supremacy, the more risky it can be. If you only have one primary phone number and abusive trolls dox you, meaning publish your phone number, you might get inundated with abusive text, calls, and voicemails. And abusive trolls can also use your primary phone number to hack into other accounts in order to impersonate you, especially if your phone number is linked to, let's say, your bank account or social media profiles, etc. When your cell phone is under attack, it can be difficult to use it. But that's precisely when you need it the most to access support from friends and family and colleagues. So by having two phone numbers, a private number for your nearest and dearest, and a public facing phone number for work, you create an extra layer of protection for yourself. Even if your professional phone number is compromised, your private phone number is still accessible and functional. Victoria, can you explain to us how to do that without having two phones?
I can, and I have to say you make a pretty compelling case. Now, if you're based in the States, you can get a Google Voice number. Here's how it works. Right now, your primary phone number is connected to your SIM card. If you sign up for Google Voice, you get a virtual phone number, which is completely distinct from your SIM-based phone number, but you can still use both of those numbers on exactly the same device. Google Voice has some really useful features. It helps detect and block spam and phishing. You can turn on the option to screen calls, use anonymous caller ID, and decide which phone number to make or receive calls with, which can actually be really helpful if you're trying to reach out to people and you want to mask your actual phone number. You can also record conversations and transcribe voicemails, which makes it easier to document abuse. To set up a free Google Voice number, install the app on your phone and then sign in with your Gmail account. Then enter the area code or the city that you want the Google Voice number to be from, which is really cool because you can pick somewhere that you don't live at all. From there, you can select a number that works for you, and then you'll be prompted to verify an existing phone number with a special code. So you'll probably have to send your primary SIM-based phone number, the code, and that's how you verify it. This will be the number that Google will forward all your calls to. So if you want to pause here and set up Google Voice, go for it. Harlow, you and I are in the States. But does Google Voice actually work everywhere else?
Unfortunately not. It only works in the US, Mexico, and in the UK. But the good news is that there's still a lot of other options. First, you can look into apps like MySudo, which works outside of the United States. Second, you can just get, two SIM cards, which you can easily swap in and out. And in fact, some phones even physically accommodate two SIM cards at the same time. And finally, you can get a second physical phone, which we use as a burner, which has the added advantage of making you sound like a badass.
And we both know that I am a badass because I have occasionally used burner phones.
Well, then you'll know that in addition to having two phone numbers, it's also super, super important to be mindful of the apps that you use for communicating, including your calls and texting, because it can or it can be very easy for powerful actors like corporations and governments to surveil and stalk you. When you're communicating with sensitive sources about sensitive subjects, it's critically important to use communication apps with end to end encryption.
All right, people are always talking about end-to-end encryption, but what on earth does that actually mean?
So, a communication service that uses end to end encryption for your messages and calls effectively scrambles the content from the moment you send it until the moment when the other person receives
Mm.
it, at which point it's unscrambled or decrypted. So, even if someone intercepts your calls or messages as they travel from sender to receiver, a third party will not be able to listen to or read anything because the content will just be a jumble.
Jumble is good. I mean, if I'm going to have the government or a corporation get a hold of my text messages, I'd rather all they see is a jumble. But how do I know which communication services offer end-to-end encryption? Because I'm pretty sure not all of them do.
There are a lot of options out there. Not all of them are that great, but there are options. WhatsApp is end to end encrypted, but it's owned by Meta. So just keep that in mind. A lot of people use Telegram and they think it's end to end encrypted, but that's only the case for one to one chats. And so group chats and broadcasts are not encrypted. So, your very best bet is an app called Signal, which you can use for text calls, video, including group texts, and you can have that app on your phone and your computer. Victoria, can you walk us through how to set up Signal?
I can. I use Signal thanks to you because that's the only way I can communicate with you. So, sure. You'll want to go to your phone's App Store or Google Play and download the Signal app. To set up an account, you'll first be prompted to grant or deny permissions to Signal on your phone. So, go ahead and enable permissions. Then you'll be asked for access to your contacts list. Accepting access would allow you to easily see which of your contacts are on the app and then add them to your contacts on Signal. But if you want to deny access to your contacts, it's not a big problem. It doesn't really prevent you from using any of the features on Signal. It just means you have to manually enter phone numbers, which is no big deal. You'll then be asked to enter your phone number. If you want an extra layer of security, you can actually create a Google Voice number like we explained earlier and use that to sign up for your Signal account. That's what I've done. So rather than using your SIM card based phone number, use your Google Voice number. Then you'll need to verify that number using a code. You'll be asked to choose a first name for your profile and an optional last name and profile photo. And again, if you want an extra layer of security, you can actually use an alias or an avatar. And finally, you'll be prompted to create a PIN or passcode that secures access to your account and that allows you to sign back into Signal if you ever change phones or delete the app. So go ahead and pause now if you want to download and install Signal. Harlow, what are some of your favorite Signal features?
Oh, you know I love Signal.
I do.
My very favorite feature is disappearing messages, which automatically deletes messages after a certain period of time. And this is important because if someone takes your phone physically away from you, let's say law enforcement, they can open your Signal app and read and document the messages that they see. But if you set your messages to disappear, there's nothing to read. In order to enable disappearing messages for all chats, go to Signal settings, then privacy, then default timer for new chats. And you can set a time and click save. If you want to do the same thing for a specific chat with someone, go to the chat settings and then disappearing messages and set the amount of time you prefer and then hit save. Another really cool feature in Signal is that it automatically deletes all of the metadata that is attached to your pictures. So, Victoria, can you tell us more about metadata?
I can. Metadata is all the data associated with a digital file, like a photo. It's the date and time you took the photo, where you took the photo, etc. The problem is that governments and law enforcement can figure out a lot of information about you just by looking at the metadata without even seeing the photo itself, which can be dangerous. Signal automatically removes all of this information from the media that you send using the app. And finally, as a quick side note, you can actually use Signal on your phone and computer, which is super handy because if you use Signal for work, it's just faster and easier to type on your computer. You just have to go to Signal's website and download and install the desktop app. So if you want to pause now and play around with Signal's features, this would be a good time.
Okay, so we talked about the importance of having two numbers and the importance of using end-to-end encrypted apps for your communications. Now, let's talk about something really creepy: location tracking and sharing.
That sounds really horrible. Carla, what are you talking about?
Your phone and many of the apps on your phone automatically track your location every second of every day,
Ugh,
and
gross.
they may even sell or reveal that info to nefarious actors. But you can turn off some of this location tracking and sharing as needed. If you're an iPhone user, you want to go to settings, then privacy, and then location services. That's where you can toggle location services on and off. Also, in the location services section, there's a feature called Find My iPhone, which is pretty self explanatory, but it only works by tracking your location all the time. So you can turn that on or off. If you're on Android, the settings are organized differently from one phone to the next, but you can turn off both location tracking and Find My device. Only you can decide what degree you want to limit location tracking and sharing, depending on the risks that you're navigating. You might want to share your location with editors if you're covering a protest, or with your family and friends if you're traveling to an unfamiliar location. But the point is that it's quick and easy to switch it on and off. You might want to pause now and deactivate your phone location.
So here's something really important to keep in mind. Not all apps are trustworthy. Many apps are literally built to stalk you and sell your data. That's actually how they make their money. And some of them are just sloppy in how they store your data and don't keep it very secure. So it's a really good idea to go through all the apps on your phone and see what you're allowing each of your apps to access. On an iPhone, you can check your privacy settings for individual apps by going to settings, then privacy, and clicking on individual phone features like location services, tracking photos, camera, Bluetooth, microphone, etc. You can also go to a list of where all your apps are and go to individual apps and fix the settings and permissions there. And you can just adjust them for every single individual app. If you want to check your privacy settings for apps on Android devices, there's a shortcut. You just pick one of the little app icons, whichever one you want, press on it for a little while until you get a little pop-up with app info, and then adjust the permissions as needed.
And I think that's enough for today.
I would agree.
Thank you for watching the 8th and final episode of Digital Safety Snacks. If you got stuck on anything in this video and need help, we're going to be running a live workshop on this content on Thursday, July 28th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to join and invite anyone else who could benefit.
And if you want to protect yourself from hacking and doxing, make sure to review all 8 episodes of our Digital Safety Snacks. It's been a pleasure. Remember, stay safe online, and thank you for grabbing all of our safety snacks.